You got 7 again. Stop eating and roll the dice.
Oh, this hand.
Close, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mateo, you're
It's
on.
gotta be a space.
Is that the one you wanted?
In a way, I think I see my work as these love letters to my wife, to my sons, to my family. If I think of it in those terms, then it's this long love letter to the people that have influenced me, that are a part of my life. I think initially, some of the works with the figures underwater were about the beginning relationship between Lori and myself. And then later, when I was married and had sons, then the works sort of became these love letters to my sons.
When I moved away to the city from northern Michigan, I began to feel a sense of isolation and started to try to address it in my work by using nature as my subject. And sometimes the way I drew it made a feeling of isolation because it was one single image surrounded by space. My work over time has tried to show people that I feel nature is beautiful and worthy of more respect. So if you look quickly at my work, you see a beautiful maybe mandala or arrangement of plants that is pleasing to the eye, but if you look deeper, I hope that you see that there's more than meets the eye to the way we're treating nature.
We met in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Kendall College of Art and Design.
We met at Kendall, were very good friends, roommates at some point, and then started dating when we went to Cincinnati for our masters.
When we were in Cincinnati, we thought about where else we could move, LA or New York or Chicago. And we kind of weighed the pros and cons, and family was a big factor in that. We both grew up in close families, and I knew that I would dive into it wholeheartedly, and then that would take away from doing any art.
When the boys were younger, it was harder because they'd have to spend a ton of time in the studio. So that would be one or the other of us would have to, pick up the slack on the home front. So that was tricky, both being artists.
Yeah, we thought we were gonna concentrate on our art careers and move ahead that way. We weren't totally opposed to having kids. I think it was more of a population boom thing. It's we don't want to add to. Mateo's in the other room going, what?
Go upstairs.
But we're glad we had him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made all the
amazing,
difference, really.
Yeah. The choices we made led to where we are, and we're happy where we are. So it's hard to think about the other path and what might have happened. I found sources for images that I really like the way they look. They're like turn of the century botanical books. And I thought, these are really nice the way they are. And I made multiple copies of them on transparencies and turned them into something else. So I would arrange them in a certain way and then re-photocopy them. But then it did involve some drawing because they were never perfect the way I rearranged them, and I'm cutting them up. So I ended up drawing into them until it looked like they might have been in a book that way.
This print is a woodcut of Lori and myself and the boys working in our studio. And the print we're printing is the print you're looking at. And the boys on top of that represent different types of relief printmaking. Mateo, my youngest, is doing rubber stamps, little skulls. Lucas, my oldest, is using a tortilla press to make some heart prints. And then I'm rolling out the block that you see. And then within that print, there's also some nods to the printmakers, especially Latino printmakers that have influenced me. So the boys each have a symbol on their shirts that represent some of my friends and printmakers, Latino printmakers.
I connected the body to plants. So it started when I did a photocopy type work that had a thorn that I turned into an arch. And then later I found other things that reminded me, if I changed the way they were arranged and photocopied them in multiple copies, I arranged them until they looked like something else. And then I started relating it to the body, so I started making things that looked like ribs. So I had some twigs that I arranged in a rib-like structure, and then I had roots that I made into veins. Often I would make beautiful things and think about how it relates later to the body, or as I'm making it, making sure it's beautiful and say, oh, that does look like a certain part of the body. Where now I'm conceptually thinking ahead of time where can I find an etching or something in a botanical book that looks like what I want to make?
While at Kendall, my roommate happened to be Maynard James Keenan, who ended up being a big rock star. And we're good friends, we've stayed good friends. As an undergrad, I decided not to do illustration because I didn't like people telling me what to do. But with the projects that I worked on with the band Tool and Maynard, they would come to me after they would see something that they liked. So I didn't have to create anything to somebody's specifics. It just happened that it would work with what they wanted. I was doing all these water paintings and imagery, and he was writing all these lyrics that dealt with water. So it clicked. He's like, you know, I've been writing these things. Can we use some of your images for promotional things for the band? And I said, sure. Maynard had this idea that he'd like to see a poster that was kind of odd size that would fit in somebody's locker at high school, and which I thought was genius. And that painting was really long and narrow anyway, and so it kind of lent itself to it.
I am the art specialist here at Good Shepherd. I have a master's degree in drawing. I don't have an education degree, so that allowed me to teach in private schools, and this sort of evolved into exactly what I really enjoy doing. So I can't say that I initially planned to be an art teacher at this level, but as I had my boys and started doing different art lessons with them, it evolved to this, and this is perfect. I think any creative process feeds your own work. And I've gotten to explore a lot of different media I might not have that does benefit my work, different things that I have to try to work with them. And yeah, it's just being in the creative world I think is beneficial to my work.
I came to the SNITE in 1998 from the Cincinnati Art Museum as a preparator. And over the years, my position has changed at the SNITE. Now I'm the exhibition coordinator. As a kid growing up in a small town, I'd never been to a museum, an art museum. So to actually see artwork every day and to be exposed to different types of art from around the world, around the country, it has changed my view on what I think art is, what art can be. The downside is, I'm at work and I'm not in the studio.
The next phase was photocopying real leaves. Like I'd find an interesting leaf that might have a distinct color or a shape in it that was imperfect. And so I would photocopy it and then bring it right into Photoshop and arrange it that way, which is fun to flip it around and move it around. And then I'd end up having to draw into it things that weren't working, or if there was overlapping that was blocking out something. So I wasn't doing the hands-on drawing I had been, but I still was interested in the qualities of the transparent qualities, the value that happens when you overlap things, and the fact that they can look like other things. And sometimes they didn't look like the body, sometimes they were just a nice pattern or symmetrical shape that I don't know, something about it just spoke to me.
Hearing the latest news events, with all these fighting going on in Gaza and the undocumented children crossing the border in Arizona and facing opposition. This idea of this war on kids just came into mind, and I wanted to somehow make something about that because it was really bugging me. This board is the coffin top for prints that I did in 2007. The shape reminded me of this sort of missile or bomb shape. So I wanted to play with that kind of metaphor of if I put a figure in here and then printed it multiple times on long rolls of paper and hung them on the wall in a gallery at different heights, then maybe I could give the impression that these coffin shapes are falling, and then also give the illusion to bomb shapes falling as well.
Lately, I've been challenging myself more to make something that's speaking to environmental things that are happening that I'm interested in. Before I was just making something pretty and hoping that I could conceptualize later what was going on with it. Now I was thinking about making a statement about breast cancer and looking for plants that I could make that shape out of. It's a real struggle because it can end up your work that you're trying to make look like something people are attracted to seeing can just look too much like an illustration of these ideas that I'm trying to put together to say something.
The idea of if I could do my work full-time, you know, it comes up pretty often, actually. Just, you know, trying to picture what I would be doing differently, how I could be doing it differently.
It's a harder balance, a different balance than when you just have to worry about meals and go to the studio. And you just do what you need to do for your own body instead of all the other bodies around you that need care. So.